you. Good day to my colleagues. Good day to the people of this territory. Good day to the testifiers. First of all, my first set of questions to Judge Gallivan has to do you have a full count of all the cases that you are currently dealing with? That's the first part of the question. And the second part is, can you share with me the amount or the percentage that you have been able to dispose of? And could you also share with me what portion of the cases that you're dealing with you would say are the most difficult that might take an extended period of time?
Thank you. Yes, I do have a list of all of my open case log. I have also a list of all of the cases that have been closed in the last 16 years that I have sat on the bench, including those from the family court. I did not calculate a clearance rate, but I believe the last time it was calculated, it was well over 92%. So I'm clearing most of my cases. My backlog has declined. The backlog that I inherited in 2019 has declined. I currently, as I know...
Go ahead.
I currently have 203 cases as of when did I run that number? Maybe a few days ago. 203 open cases. The reason I note that 114 of them are guardianships because those don't generally close right away. Depending on if it's a guardianship of a minor, it may stay open until they reach the age of majority. If it is of an incapacitated person, then it may stay open until, unfortunately, the person passes. And the same for the conservatorships and for the involuntary commitments. I have a case that dates back to 1991.
Oh my.
Right, so so it's passed through several judges. It will not close most likely until that person passes away. So that's why I make the distinction, because the number of active cases, and then you asked about the cases that are most difficult. I'm sorry, yeah. I missed your last question.
Yes. Well, what fraction of the cases might be the most difficult?
It depends. I would say the child custody cases, those divorce cases that involve maybe a certain amount of wealth on the part of the parties might be more complex than others. Certainly, I think family court is not as broad, clearly, as the general civil and criminal division matters are. So that makes it easier to both open and close cases. I will say that.
Well, I'm happy for your detailed response, because one of the things, even as a representative, I'm always concerned about is the backlog. And I wanted to get some clarity as to, for you, how do you work on getting your cases cleared? But clearly, by sharing that differentiation between some that might be never ending open because it's a continuous situation, that gives us a broader idea. When we hear these large numbers, by getting this breakdown, we say, well, wait a minute, it might not be as bad as we might think it is based on how some of them are categorized. So I do appreciate you sharing that. One of the things I often wonder in regards to being a judge, a lot of your decision has to be based strictly by law, dealing with the laws of the land. But you also have to deal with public opinion. And a lot of times I get concerned about what kind of effect that might have dealing with the public opinion side of it, because sometimes everybody is not fully aware of what the law might be. And as a judge, you're aware of it, but not every outcome of a case would make a public happy. How do you deal with that in even trying to make sure even the public sometimes understands what's happening?
It's a very difficult aspect of the job, right? As I noted earlier, potentially 50% of the people are going to think you're the most learned judge, and 50% are going to think you don't know what you're doing on any given day. So popularity or public opinion cannot be the barometer by which you judge your cases. You must commit yourself to judging based on the facts as they are presented and the law. You just must. And you cannot, I'm not saying you're not bothered by it. There are times when I wish I could speak out, particularly when judges are, in my mind, wrongfully accused of making a bad or poor decision. But it comes with the territory. It comes as a part of the job, and it cannot control your decision making.
Excellent. I'm happy for that response. I want to ask about privacy.
1 minute.
A lot of the cases with are involving of minors, personal matters. How do you deal with that? Because, sometimes people come into a courtroom and then all of a sudden people try to spread information to the public when certain things should be either left in the courtroom. Or how do you handle that side, especially protecting, especially our younger children when they have issues and court cases?
Well, most of our cases in family court
30 seconds.
We're considered a closed court. So the public is not invited, and the only people that generally appear in our matters that are not parties are people who have an interest or who the parties themselves have invited. I also think that our court staff is trained on a regular basis of avoiding disseminating information. I know when I hire people into my chambers, that's a discussion that we have. It is a small community, and so we constantly talk about not sharing information about the cases with people who don't have a need to know. Our electronic filing system, even though there is public access, there's no public access to the family court cases.
Excellent. Well, I am very happy with your responses. I know I heard time, but I want to thank you for the work that you have been doing, because from what you have responded here today and listening to some of your responses from my other colleagues, I am very sure that you will be renominated, and I do support you continuing on doing the best work that you can do on behalf of the people of this territory. So thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you so.
Good day to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the people of the territory and to the staff. As it relates to Bill 360005, I do support this piece of legislation. Anything that's going to help clean up the code in regards to more protections being put in place for victims, I think is a definite positive. I do also support the amendment where I did get some further clarity from the sponsor as it relates to payment, but that part is going to be stricken because it's usually funded through grants through some of the nonprofits. So I did appreciate him sharing that additional information with me. As it relates to 350036, I do support that some of these changes were made. One of my issues last term, when this was originally brought forward, I did support the impound lot, but I had a major concern with just raising these fees without information, knowledge, nothing. But I will say that they did come to the committee and they did share the information with the committee and the public. And I think based on looking as a comparison to what they were before and what they have been adjusted to, some of them are not too far-fetched. So I can't say that I will not be supporting this measure at this time. And the beauty I always tell people of this institution is whatever law we make as a body, if there's a situation where we need to adjust it, we are the lawmaking body and we could make adjustments. As it relates to 360036, I think this is a good piece of legislation because we have quite a bit of, we have potentially anywhere from 15 to $20 billion that's being spent in this territory. And based on the fact that we are not, I think, fortunate to have such a large labor force to help rebuild the Virgin Islands that the way we need to, we do have to tap into companies and businesses that are going to be doing business here in the territory. 5% of 20 billion is a lot. And I was getting very leery of being put in situations where this money that is supposed to come into this territory, not only to rebuild, but also circulate in the territory, a lot of it is going to have to leave the territory. We will be left with the buildings, but the circulation of the funds is going to leave the territory. And if we have the ability to make sure that we retain 5% of it for taxes to also benefit our infrastructure and benefit our territory, I think it's a positive situation that we're cleaning this up. I have sat in the Senate floor and had to go back and go to war with people that basically who had gotten over $1 billion out of this territory because of our recovery. They wanted to recoup and take back 60 million in taxes, the same 5% gross receipt taxes. And while some of my colleagues were willing to give it to them, I was not one of those people. And luckily, as a body, they understood the importance of holding on to that 5%. So I appreciate my colleague for coming up with this piece of legislation to expand that, to make sure that that 5% stays here. And this is going to be part of the message to any of you that feel that you're entitled to get monies back. That doorway is being closed off. I don't want to hear it, because when you look at these islands and say you want to do business with us, you know our laws include 5% gross receipts tax. I don't want to hear that the other 50 states don't have it. But when you're following that FEMA money, you know the Virgin Islands has it. So understand what you're dealing with. And while you're going to go with the money, you have to leave some right here. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share my thoughts. I am in support of all three measures, and I look forward to casting my vote when I have an opportunity to. Thank you, Madam Chair.